President Putin has announced the annexation of 4 regions of Ukraine that are controlled by Russian forces in the biggest seizure of territory in Europe since the Second World War. His declaration follows staged referendums in Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Luhansk and Donetsk. They were denounced by Ukraine and its allies. President Putin warned the West he would protect the territories with all forces and means at Russia's disposal. In response, Ukraine says its application to join NATO, the Western military alliance, should be accelerated. Tonight, the US President Joe Biden said the annexation was a sign that Vladimir Putin is struggling, and he pledged the US will defend every inch of NATO territory. From Moscow, our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg reports.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
What he was about to do had sparked international condemnation. But Vladimir Putin didn't care. In the Kremlin, he announced the annexation of 15% of Ukrainian land. In the audience, Kremlin-appointed officials from those territories occupied by Russia.
I want the Kyiv authorities and their real masters in the West to hear me, so that they remember this forever. People in Luhansk and Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia are becoming our citizens forever.
Defiant, unapologetic, Russia's president laid into the West.
Instead of democracy there's suppression and exploitation. Instead of freedom, enslavement and violence. America is the only country in the world that has used nuclear weapons twice, when they destroyed the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. By the way, they set a precedent with that.
Comments like that are worrying in light of the Kremlin's recent nuclear saber-rattling. Through this annexation, Vladimir Putin is trying to change the facts on the ground, trying to secure for himself some kind of victory. The problem is, you can claim all you want that land you have occupied is rightfully yours, but Ukraine isn't going to believe that. The international community doesn't believe that. And that leaves Vladimir Putin looking more isolated than ever. President Biden condemned the annexation and imposed new sanctions on Russia.
We're rallying the world to keep support for Ukraine strong and consistent. Ukraine's right to exist as a people.
This represents the most serious escalation since the start of the war. None of this shows strength. It shows weakness. It is an admission that the war is not going to plan.
Moscow says these territories are joining Russia after holding referendums, but they've been widely discredited. The West denounced them as a sham, scripted and directed by the Kremlin. And so the stage was set for the next act, the signing ceremony. Plenty of pomp, but think of the circumstance. Vladimir Putin has just raised the stakes. He's warned he will defend the annexed territories with all means at his disposal. And he says he's not bluffing. Tonight, more Kremlin choreography, and the president portrayed like a pop star. Many in this crowd had been bussed in specially to create a sense of celebration. Although polls show there is growing alarm in Russia over the war in Ukraine and about Russians being called up to fight there. But this promise from the president, victory will be ours. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.